When you're deciding on the best tool for building your Flutter apps, you have quite a few options. You can choose Android Studio for making Android apps, and if you're into Windows apps, there's Visual Studio. But if you want one tool that works for everything, that's where Visual Studio Code shines. It's like the all-in-one solution for Flutter development, no matter what kind of app you're making. Before proceeding with the installation of VS Code, let's make sure you have installed Flutter and its related platform tools. Open the command prompt and run the Flutter Doctor command. It will display the dependencies required for Flutter app development on different platforms. It verifies Flutter installation details, ensures Windows version compatibility, checks Android and web development configurations, and confirms the presence of essential development tools like Visual Studio and Android Studio. If everything is installed correctly, it will show you all green checks and display a reassuring "No issues found" message, indicating that your system is ready for Flutter app development. If you have not installed the Flutter SDK, you can check out my previous video where I demonstrate the installation process step by step. Now open the browser and search the Visual Studio Code. And click on the download link. On the website, click on the Download for Windows button. Once the installer is downloaded, locate the downloaded file and click it to run it. The installer will open a setup window. You can choose the default installation options and click the Next button to proceed with the installation. Once the installation is complete, ensure that the Launch Visual Studio Code option is checked, and then click Finish. Visual Studio Code will launch, and you'll be greeted with the welcome screen. Go to the Extensions view by clicking on the square icon in the left sidebar. Search for Flutter in the Extensions Marketplace. Click the Install button to install the official Flutter extension for Visual Studio Code. It will install both Flutter and Dart extensions for Flutter. Now let's install the Material Icon theme for Visual Studio Code. The Material Icon theme extension replaces the default file and folder icons from the Material Design library. This can make it easier to identify different file types and folders at a glance. Now, let's create a directory for Flutter projects. To create a Flutter project, open a terminal within VS Code and use the Flutter Create command to initiate a new Flutter project. Ensure that the project name starts with lowercase letters and doesn't contain spaces. When you create a Flutter project, it generates a directory structure that includes key files and folders. These files and folders are essential for organizing and building your Flutter app. There's a folder called lib, where you'll primarily work on your Dart code, including the main.dart file, which is the entry point of your Flutter app. At the bottom right corner of the VS Code window, you'll see a button for devices. Click on this button to open the device selector. In the device selector, you'll see a list of available devices and emulators. Click on the device you want to run your Flutter app on. Let's choose a web app. Click the Run Without Debugging button in the top right corner of the VS Code window, or press F5 on your keyboard. VS Code will build and run your Flutter app on the selected device or platform. You can also choose the Android emulator and Windows app option, or even test your app on all platforms at the same time. Flutter's Hot Reload feature, which instantly applies code changes, is seamlessly integrated into VS Code. This means you can see the impact of your code changes on your Android app, Windows desktop app, or web app in real time. Hope you will enjoy Flutter app development with VS Code. Stay with us for more Flutter guides.